Composr CMS version 11.beta8 is now available for download. As a reminder, this is a beta version. Bugs and security issues may still be present. It is not recommended to run this version on production sites unless you know what you are doing and you take frequent backups. Basic version 10 sites might be able to upgrade to 11.beta8, but they must first upgrade to version 10.0.52 first, which was also just released. To upgrade, you could go to your admin zone dashboard or upgrader.php. On the upgrader, you'll need to run all of the steps indicated in the order that they're presented. Here's some important info. Cookie consent in Composr has changed from an info type to an opt-in type. Previously, when members go to a Composr site for the first time, they are simply informed that cookies will be put on their computer. But now, in order to comply with the General Data Protection Regulation, it runs on an opt-in strategy. This means, until a user explicitly clicks to allow cookies, Composr will act as if cookies are not supported on the user's device. In this case, cookies are never saved, and a user's session is stored in the URL in order to keep them logged in. Note that this behavior is still a little buggy though. The PHP getText extension is required in order to properly run Composr. The upgrader step, transfer across new and updated files, may need to be run up to 3 times when upgrading to 11.beta8. This is because it will first upgrade upgrader files, then it will upgrade tar.php, which fixes a bug in the upgrader, and finally it will upgrade the rest of your files on your site. Note that a small change has been made in recommended.htaccess. You should diff or compare your changes with your htaccess file after upgrading. If you have the Google Analytics non-bundled add-on installed, you must update it after upgrading to 11.beta8. You should be able to do that through the add-ons management page. Sites running 11.beta7 or earlier will no longer be able to directly download or update non-bundled add-ons from the site dashboard. This is due to a change in security on Composr.app to help reduce bots scraping the download section of the home site. Versions running 11 alpha and before may not be able to connect with Composr.app at all anymore due to changes in how the API works. There have been changes to the default parental controls configuration, as some changes have been made to local legislation regarding online safety of children. You should check your custom parental controls configuration located in Data Custom XML Config Parental Controls and compare it with the original one under Data XML Config Parental Controls and merge in any changes that you see. Now let's talk about some of the additions and changes made between 11.beta7 and 11.beta8. On the screen to add a warning, the message field has been renamed to Evidence and Reasoning, and it is now a required field. This is to comply with online safety regulations such as the Online Safety Act in the European Union. Online safety laws are now requiring full transparency with members when you perform moderation actions on them. This means providing evidence and reasoning for any moderation actions you take on members. When you add a download, a gallery is created for that download so you can add images for that download. But sometimes when deleting that download, the gallery will still exist as an orphan gallery. Now there is a tool in Cleanup Tools where you can delete orphan download galleries. Action log entries for commander commands are now more verbose. This means that the full command, along with the parameters and options that were provided, are logged in the second parameter column. A new attribute, noJoin, can now be added to lockout controls on the parental controls configuration. Normally, a lockout does not prevent a member from creating an account if they're under the age threshold, but it prevents them from logging in. If no join is provided, they will not be able to create an account at all if they are under the age threshold. Image and audio captchas are now more secure. Image captchas, when noise is enabled, now feature shadows behind the characters, as well as some lines. Audio captchas now have NATO phrases in them to confuse speech-to-text engines and AI. Here is a demonstration.
N, November, J, Juliet, Beta7, D, Golf, C, Charlie, Q, Quebec.
Changes have been made to the behavior of _critical_error.html. Now, if this file exists and a critical error happens, a redirect does not happen like previously. Instead, the contents of the _critical_error.html file are loaded in and output on the page. Additionally, tempcode-like parameters are now supported to inject certain information about the error. As a reference, creating an _critical_error.html file allows you to create your own custom critical error screen that is shown when anyone encounters a critical error on your site. If you additionally have a critical errors folder, any critical errors that happen are saved in a log file within that folder. A new non-bundled add-on is now available for 11.beta8 called Photo Verification. You can download this either from your add-ons management screen when you go to import a non-bundled add-on, or you can download it from Composr.app. Online safety laws are starting to mandate that you verify the age of members who want to access adult content. You can use third-party services to do this, even AI. But given Composr is supposed to be an alternative to the use of big tech and software as a service, we decided to provide our own tool that you can use. While it is not sophisticated by any means, it is an easy tool for collecting photos to verify the age of members. Members are instructed to take a picture with them in the shot holding up their photo ID and a piece of paper. The form also gives a random verification code which they must write on the piece of paper. This method allows you to do simple verification of a member to verify that they are of age to access restricted content. This is a privacy-centric tool because it does not use third-party services to verify people's age. Instead, you verify people's ages, and the photos are stored on your site and your site only, and AI is not used anywhere in the mix. Do note though, if privacy laws require that you use third-party services, then this tool will not be in compliance in those cases. As mentioned, there will be a special photo verification page with instructions and a small form for uploading their verification photo. It will also provide the verification code they must write on their paper. When a member submits this form, it is submitted as a support ticket to the staff. The support ticket contains the verification code that was given to the member, so the staff can verify the legitimacy of the verification request. It will also contain the photo that was uploaded. The action logs will also contain a log containing the verification code along with a link to that support ticket. So again, you can verify the legitimacy of the request. On the support ticket is a link to a page in the admin zone which guides staff as to how to verify the legitimacy of the verification photo. Now, this tool doesn't do anything automatic in terms of granting or restricting access to content. That is something you will have to do manually. The idea here is that members by default will not have access to restricted content. They will have to go through this verification process, and then once verified, you would grant them access, such as through a group, in order for them to access restricted content. Now let's speed run through other additions and changes in Composr 11.beta8. The IMAP non-bundled add-on is now bundled with Composr as Core IMAP. This is due to PHP 8.4's deprecation of their native IMAP extension. The importer, when importing another Composr site, can now remove duplicate members based on email address. Statistics processing is now done hourly instead of daily in order to reduce the number of out-of-memory errors by PHP. WebP images are now added to valid image types by default if the server supports them. If the Commander add-on is installed, the deload.php script uses a download's resource GUID for extra security instead of the database ID. This reduces download scraping by bots. For those of you who don't know, deload.php is the script that is used to actualize a download. Composr.app is activating anti-leech protection for the same reasons, and 11.beta8 adds support for this. This is why 11.beta7 and earlier sites can no longer download or update non-bundled add-ons through the site itself. To reduce the number of API calls to stop forum spam, a 1-hour query cache has been added. A region multi-field type has been added so that you can provide multiple regions. A lot of warnings code has been migrated from core CNS into CNS warnings where it belongs. This includes database table maintenance. The site importer now has better handling when trying to import a resource and it fails. Banned members no longer show up on the member directory unless the current member has permission to view banned members. The mail queue will now attempt to resend failed mail once every hour, up to 5 times. The upgrader will now show the fixed file permissions tool for everyone, regardless of su-exec status on your server. Session IDs are now longer and use a larger character set for enhanced security. And finally, when you use the bounce email tool, it will add those emails to the global unsubscribed list. It is implied that when a mail bounces, you cannot email that mail address anymore, and doing so repeatedly may put your site on a spam block list. Critical error messages are sometimes very wordy, so they have been simplified. References to Skype, including the Skype share option, have been removed since Microsoft discontinued Skype. When using HybridAuth, a member that already has a local account on your site can now still log in with HybridAuth. When they do, their existing account will be synchronized with their HybridAuth account, assuming they have the same email address. Also, an account can be delinked from a HybridAuth provider simply by changing the password on one's profile. When upgrading, new bundled add-ons are no longer installed by default unless they begin with core, but the upgrader will inform you about their presence, and if you want them, you can install them from the add-ons management screen. The file integrity scan now uses a multi-select box instead of tick boxes to work around post limits, especially with mod security. And when an error occurs, we disabled error service checking. It was causing sites to get banned from Composr.app for false positives on spam. Now let's talk about some of the bug fixes that have been made since 11.beta7. We fixed some deprecations in PHP 8.4, namely dealing with the XML reader and writer systems. We also removed use of the eStrict constant, which has been deprecated by PHP, and we removed use of the MySQL ping function, which is also deprecated. Now we're just querying select1 to reestablish a connection with MySQL when it gets lost. Some fixes have been made to the persistent cache. The database identifier column was too small, and therefore the database has been silently failing on the cache. We fixed instances where the persistent cache was incorrectly calculating when a cache has become stale. When the database was being used for persistent caching, it was not getting emptied when the persistent cache emptying was being called. There was no way to clear the persistent cache in the cleanup tools, so now it will be cleared when clearing the smart cache. And we optimized the file system persistent caching engine. We now changed it so it only saves the files on the PHP shutdown function. This significantly decreases page load times, since it's not repeatedly writing files. Here are some other fixes that have been made. We fixed some very aggressive infinite loop checking. We also added an infinite loop protection for the infinite loop protection itself. This was a big one. We noticed that auto banning for hack attacks was not working. It's working now, so people who are triggering the hack attack system and reaching the ban threshold should now actually get banned. There have been several bugs with newsletters and mail bouncing which have been fixed. We also added CAPTCHA and spam checks to newsletter subscriptions to prevent spam signups. We fixed a bug where trying to view a member profile if the CNS Warnings add-on was not installed would trigger an error. We fixed a bug where an internal error would be thrown via htaccess when using maintenance script protection. This was because it was adding the IP addresses into the htaccess file using the wrong Apache syntax. The credit card scrubbing tool in the system scheduler was throwing a database error. This has been fixed. And here's another big one. The upgrader was not extracting certain new files when it should have been. This was also an issue with how tar was reading files. Sometimes files with long file names would be skipped. When determining how many users are online to determine whether or not the site is busy, it was counting guests when it should only be counting logged-in members. Step 4 of the setup wizard was throwing an error. This should be fixed now. The forgot password tool would resend an expired code instead of making a new one. Sometimes you would get an error for a missing theme image even though the image exists within the default theme. Members were unable to log out when rules, password change, or parental controls are enforced. The email bounces cleanup tool was doing nothing when it should have been cleaning out email bounces from the database. I found out that there was a browser limitation with disabled tick boxes. They don't post their values when submitting forms, so I added a workaround for this. There are some undefined array offset errors when trying to view individual quiz scoring results. The mechanism for scoring quizzes was broken. Install.php was sometimes throwing a deprecation warning for preg match. Google Analytics was not loading when the web property ID was set. Now note, if you are using Google Analytics, note that version 11 does not support Google Tags or Analytics version 4 yet. The defer option on blocks was not working because of content security policy blocking unsafe evaluation of JavaScript. There are some type errors on calls to show exec in PHP 8 which have been fixed. When using web requests to trigger the system scheduler, sometimes you would get an OB-flush error. This has been fixed. The adjust htaccess function was not using proper Apache syntax in the htaccess file, sometimes triggering an internal server error in the process. Infinite loops would sometimes get triggered when trying to get certain values from the database, such as whether or not a site is using content translations. The site importer was not properly importing category trees. The upgrader would not properly upgrade the CMS country custom profile field, thereby triggering an error. The upgrader was not fixing old or broken entry point scripts from version 10 sites and earlier version 11 sites in the zones when upgrading. Uses of the date temp code symbol had parameters in the wrong order, resulting in incorrect dates being displayed on the site. There were several issues with hybrid auth and logging in or signing up with external providers that have been fixed. When a guest uses a chat room, they are assigned a name guest underscore followed by a small hash. This hash could be used to guess their IP address. So this was fixed by salting the hash so that it is not as easy to guess their IP address. The mechanism for enforcing sessioned URLs was broken because it was applying for bots when it should be applying for non-bots. The upgrader would not always package updated files into their add-on tars. The upgrader would trigger the user's online calculation, which would then throw an error. When using PHP versions earlier than 8, there would be errors with MK time. This has been fixed. There were some type issues in catalogs that have also been fixed, and several other bugs which have not been mentioned have also been fixed. We hope you enjoy Composr version 11.beta8. If you enjoy using Composr, please consider contributing to the Composr ecosystem. This will help progress development of Composr and boost the overall community. There are several ways you can contribute, such as contributing code, reporting issues and suggestions, offering free or paid support to others, promoting Composr, exchanging points on the home site for goods or services with others, or writing or reviewing documentation. See composr.app/ecosystem.htm for more information.